believe she's already in the room, so I'm gonna go ahead and try to add her without any technical difficulties. Let's see. Let's see. Okay, y'all gotta bear with me. Okay, I think we hit this right here, right? No. Yeah, that's it. I'm gonna get this. I'm gonna get this. So I've sent the invitation. Let's see. I think. Yep. Accept. Hey, that worked out real quick. Hey.
That was good. Hi.
I got it.
How are you? OMG.
How you doing?
I am doing amazing, amazing. Happy Wednesday to you. Happy Wednesday to everybody. A blessed day. It's so good to be here.
Yes. Look, since I've seen you last, I think you've had a name. Well, I won't say a name change, a name addition. You're now Charisa Munroe Wilborn.
Yes,
Congratulations.
Let's get it right. I've had to have been corrected. So I correct anytime I have to. Because when you've had your name for so long, as long as I have to remind myself that I've added
Right.
and
You're
I'm quick to
Mrs.
say
now.
just Charisa Munroe, but no, there's
Yeah.
Charisa Munroe Wilborn, and so
How are you enjoying married life?
so far, I am enjoying it. I am enjoying the entire picture, everything. I don't know if you watch Fences, but there is that, take the cricket with the straights. I'm enjoying it all. I'm enjoying the mountains. I'm enjoying the valleys. I'm enjoying the picnics. I'm enjoying the challenges. I'm enjoying it all. It's making for a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful picture. So
I can't help but to ask, do you look back on Mom and Dad Monroe and say, y'all made this look too easy? Sometimes do you look back on them?
heck yes, they made it up. And that's been part of the struggle. So part of the struggle is having this great example in the two of them. And so you build your fantasy around this beautiful picture, this beautiful cake, not taking into effect or taking into account the ingredients that went into that to make that cake that I saw. And so the ingredients aren't the same because I'm me and he's him and my parents are them. And so we're all different. So it's been interesting trying to, it's been good though. It's been beautiful.
I know. It's beautiful. Listen, we had somebody that said they can't hear. Can you guys hear? Let us know. So I just saw someone that said they can't hear. Can you hear us? We just want to be sure before we get into.
Thomas is in the house.
Yes,
Hi,
I saw Jamaica in the house. Yes.
Gandhi, give us a thumbs up if you can hear us well. Okay,
You can hear us loud and clear. Beautiful.
Awesome.
Okay, so let's get into our conversation. We want to talk. You're a licensed social worker, licensed clinical social worker, but you also do speaking on the subject of mental health and managing mental health, as we all need to in this climate. But let's start back at your journey, and I guess we have to start at 2014, at the loss of both of your parents, along with several other family and friends. Tell me, what did you learn about yourself in that experience?
If I had to come up with three things, just to keep it simple. One, I am a lot stronger than I think I am. We say, I don't think I ever would, or I don't think I ever could deal with, and then it happens to you and you realize you don't die. You realize you wake up the next morning, you realize you're still breathing. And so along the way, I realized very quickly that I am a lot stronger than I ever thought I was. For so many reasons. I would have never thought that I would have, even 7 years later, as I'm talking to you now and not being able to, not crying and not falling apart and still being able to move on with what we call life. That's because I'm a lot stronger than I was. But if you had asked me that before then, I would have said, oh no, I would not be the same person. Like I would literally go crazy. If you had asked me, how would I have been if you were to lose your parents? And then it happened and I'm still here,
Yeah.
The other thing that I learned about myself is I was more prepared than I thought I was. I was a lot more prepared. 50% of that I attribute to my parents doing an excellent job in investing in us, doing an excellent job in training and teaching us. The other 50% I attribute to myself in retaining what I learned and building my own relationship with God, my own relationship with spirituality, my own relationship with myself. Forget anybody else. And then just, making sure that I educate myself going forward, because there are things that I wanted to do. And, saying yes to my dad when he wanted to just throw us to the wolves, because that man would just throw you on stage and tell you, okay, you need to speak about this or you need to do this. And I'm like, first of all, I'm 9. I don't know what in the world to say. 14, 18, 21, 30, he was doing the same thing. And then it got to a point where they were no longer here. And even in his death, he was still throwing us on stage. He was still throwing us on stage. And to this day, he is still throwing us on stage. And never once did we fail. Never once did we embarrass. Never once did we break down. Never once did we stand there numb. And I think there was so much preparation that was going on, that was taking place for such a time as this, that I would not have known. Like, if you would ask me, would I be ready? I would have told you, no, I'm not. It turns out I was a lot more ready than I thought I was. Mm-hmm. So that's the second thing. And the third thing I learned about myself is I am very resilient, more resilient than I thought I was. More resilient than I thought I was. And I think resiliency is one of the key factors in any human, if they can master it. More especially in leaders. Being resilient is a muscle that you build from a child. Like, you're born with this muscle, but it gets stronger and stronger the more you go through things in life, and the more life hits you. And if you get stronger, the more you allow yourself to get knocked down and get back up. And the more you fail and you decide, okay, I'm going to try again, like, that's resilient. And so even being able to, the very next night or the very next morning after everything happened, my brother and I having to decide, what do we do? Do we say yes to the mantle? Do we say yes, we carry on? Do we, hide behind a rock like we really want to? Or do we do what mom and dad would have wanted? And so, in the last 7 years, at least I have taken that time to let that resilient muscle grow over time. And, here I am. I would have never thought 7 years ago that I would be here able to talk about it and not shed one tear. Like, that was not me the first year, 2 years, 3 years. At the first thought of them, the first thought of the whole story, I was just a basket case. And so when I was a basket case, so was everybody else. So along the way, I learned the art of containing myself so that I don't bleed on everybody else, which wasn't always a good thing. But I was stronger than I am. I was more prepared than I am, and being more resilient were the 3 things I learned.
Yeah. Having been in the faith and born into the things of God, did you ever find yourself in that season questioning your faith, or even resentful to a degree to what was put in? Not necessarily to dismiss the legacy, but just not understanding what's going on.
I didn't.
Wow.
I did not. And part of that goes under the umbrella of being more prepared than I thought I was. So my dad taught over and over and over again that, purpose is what gives life, and purpose is what makes life valuable. And if I'm still breathing, like, one of the things that I kept saying immediately after it happened is, like, the fact that I wasn't on that plane like I was supposed to be, and the fact that I'm still here breathing means that there is still something that I'm supposed to be doing. And so as much as I was mourning and hurting and the grief is there, it's like, come on, God, really? But I still got to push. I'm still here. I'm still breathing. So there's still more I know you want me to do. Right now, I don't want to do anything, but I know there's still more for me to do. And a lot of the joy that I got every morning came from my relationship with him. And a lot of me understanding that my dad always spoke about purpose, and he had done so much. He and my mom had done so much. The fact that God saw fit to take them when he did, I'm only left to believe that he didn't die, he just finished. Like his assignment just finished. And I would like to be that person who, at the end of the day, I just finished. No tombstone needed. I went to the grave empty. No one killed me. Nothing killed me. Like I was done. I was just done. Living beyond that would just be living a useless life. And I don't want to do that. So I think it's only until now that I've come 7 years later, been doing some personal transformation that's allowing me to really deal with some of the grief that I had hidden. I think it's only now that, because my mind is a little clearer, that I'm actually having that thought of why? God, why? But even then, I think there's this understanding of it that I don't have to understand. It is not my place to understand. It is not, God is God, and he does what he wants. He gives life, he takes it away, but I'm still here. So instead of wasting time wondering why he took them, I need to spend my time capitalizing on why I'm still here.
Did 2014 prepare you for 2020 in any kind of way?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Absolutely.
You say it was a breeze.
Oh man, Cornel, you have no idea. You have no idea how, when I look at 2020, 2019, 2021, it literally is a breeze for me. And that is no looking down on what other people have gone through during these two years. But after I went through what I went through in 2014, anything after that, absolutely. I was actually more prepared to help and assist so many people during this time because of what I went through. And so I don't apologize for the fact that 2020 and 2021 didn't hit me the way it did, because I had my 2020, 2021 in 2014, and it was horrific. It was horrific. It was horrific. So I know what people that are grieving and that have lost, and that have lost, whether they've lost loved ones or they've lost jobs or they've lost homes or they've lost a limb, like whatever it is, like I know what you're going through and I can help them. And I thank God that he allowed me to go through that when he did. So now I become a useful person during this time. So absolutely, it's been a breeze. What I would like to have been doing more, of course, we all had plans in 2020. I had so many plans in 2020, but things change. And so when you realize that things change and you just prepare, you pivot, you pause, and you appreciate the pause that you have to grow and rebuild, which is what I'm doing, which is what I've done. I haven't wasted the time. I can't wait to now when it's time to actually step out the gate. Oh man, I'm a different person. I'm a totally different person.
Wow. Looking at this season we're in, we mentioned 2020. Let's talk mental health and managing it in this time of crisis. I think the conversation of mental health, mental illness has become more prevalent in our society, which is a good thing. But how does one navigate that and keep themselves well mentally after experiencing all that we've gone through and are going through, because it's yet continuing?
Mental health is very individualistic, but I think and mental health has always been a topic. I think it's literally become more prevalent now because it's affected more people. I don't know that it's affected more people, because there's always been more people that have been affected that the numbers show. But I think people are now realizing that they can't do it on their own anymore. I also think that it's also affecting, because mental health is also something that a lot of leaders, whether you're a leadership, whether that's in position or just influence, a lot of leaders deal with mental health, but they don't want to say anything. And so one of my big passions is for leaders, people in leadership, people in, who are high functioning, like your athletes and your your CEOs and people who are always on the go, on the go, on the go, they use that a lot to compensate for really what they feel like and what they go through in the dark or when it's time for them to sleep. Because when you're in the dark, when you're about to go to sleep, it's literally, that's the first time when it's only you and you alone with your thoughts. But when you're up in the light and the sun is up and you're out, then it's you and the rest of the world and everything you have going on, and so you can hide it. Well, now we were at a place where nobody was functioning. That's the issue. Nobody was functioning anymore. Nobody was doing anything anymore. No one can be with people anymore. So now you're by yourself. Now you're not functioning. So there's nothing for you to hide under. You can't hide behind work because nobody's working. You can't hide behind your friends because you can't see them. You can't almost hide behind your spouses because the two of you are in the same house and you're fighting, so you're not even together. So there's no more hiding. There's no more shade. And so people are now real. So the mental health is hit a little harder because it's been exposed. Not that it was never there. It was always there. What this pandemic and being at a standstill did was it exposed the mental health sore, bruise, cut. There was a Band-Aid for a long time. And so now people are needing help. People are more exposed and having to even get back into work and get back into the world. They're saying, how do I do this after being gone for so long? And you have some people who, depending on where they were in their strength, in their resilience, in their life, when that exposure happened, is going to determine how they then function with it. Because some people are a lot more prepared. Some people are a lot stronger than others. Some people are more, their resilient muscle is a little stronger than others. Some people have the support, some don't. Some have the community, some don't. So it's a very individualistic concept, mental health is. But I think in some way, shape, or form, we are all looking for peace, love, joy, fun, and sometimes we are looking for rest. And I think we are looking for rest. We just don't want anyone to force it down our throat. Because as humans, we like control. So I want to be able to control the amount of rest that I have. I want to be able to control the amount of rest that I take. I don't want you to tell me that I have to rest and pause for 2 years. Now I feel out of control.
Yeah.
So, but rest is so important. Like even now, I think a lot of people realize that rest is so important. I've accepted the rest as just a time for, I can rest from what I was doing before and focus on a lot of things that I couldn't.
Yeah.
And so as a social worker, I'm an advocate for seeking support. And that support doesn't have to be a therapist, doesn't have to be a psychologist, doesn't even have to be a professional. That can be a friend that you trust. That can be a pastor. That can be another adult. That can be your parent, anyone that you trust that you can confide in to just talk about how you're doing and how you are really doing, especially leaders. And I talk about leaders a lot because as leaders, we hide under our work. But every human goes through frustration. Every human deals with fear. Every human deals with desires not being met. Therefore, we deal with disappointment. Every human deals with pain. Every human deals with anger. But by the time you've gotten to anger, there's so many other emotions that you've dealt with that you have been exposed to that you've not dealt with. And you just cover them all. You just cover all of these emotions. And then when you finally have that blowout or that nervous breakdown or that blow up or anger, it's because there's so many emotions that you didn't deal with from the start. The base of it being, as humans, we are all looking for love. We are all looking to have our desires met. And when they're not, then we go through all of these other emotions. And so I like to look at it as mental wellness. It's so individualistic. It's also a big onion. There are just layers to it that it just depends on. It depends on the person. It depends on the situation. But I like the fact that people are now normalizing the conversation. It is important that we normalize the conversation. And I'm also have a passion for mental health in men, because men are leaders by default. And they have been brought up and trained and taught to hide their emotions, to hide their feelings, to react out of anger. We saw that in,
We did.
exactly.
We did.
And so they've been taught that that is the only way to do it. I can't cry. I shouldn't cry. I can't complain. And so, yet they are some of the highest mentally disabled people in the world. And so I have a heart for men because I just want to get them talking. I just want to get them to the understanding of it's okay for you to not be okay. It is okay for you to not be okay. Doesn't mean you're weak. Doesn't mean you're not the leader of the house or of your life. Doesn't mean you're out of control. It just means you're more aware. And the more you are aware, anybody, the more aware you are of your feelings, of your emotions, of your desires, of your needs, the more aware you are of something is the only time that you can do something about it.
Yeah.
So if I'm aware that there's a need that's not being met, but it's causing my frustration, then I can focus on why isn't my need being met? Maybe I'm looking in the wrong place. But if I'm not aware of it, or I choose to avoid it, then I'm just going to be frustrated. And I'm frustrated at the fact that I don't know why I'm frustrated. And if you're clogged up with frustration for so long, that frustration then becomes anger. And then you blow up at the wrong place at the wrong time. And you've just now defamed your character. You've just now destroyed your future possibility. Like, we can deal with the root before it gets there.
Yeah. You talk about, and I got to ask this as a professional in the space of social work and mental wellness, are you at all in any way concerned about this idea of mental health being such a broad subject and so necessary, but are you concerned about it becoming a crutch for people to use when they just want to lack self-control or misbehave, if you will? As with anything,
I think you are going to have, people were doing that even before it became broad. People were using mental disability or physical disability as a crutch to get certain needs met, whether it was a need financially or a need emotionally or just to get out of work. Absolutely. I think there will be those persons who are in it for themselves, who are in it for the wrong reason, and who are going to try the system, who are going to try to use it as, and I think people are, so I've been listening to the commentaries of what happened the other night, for instance, and people are already they're already using mental health as a justification for what happened. Now, I'm not saying that's not right or that's not wrong, but even with that justification, mental health cannot be the justification that we use for any violence. It's not saying that it's not the case, but people will use it. They will use it because as soon as you do, and because we're trying to normalize the situation, because we realize that mental health is affecting more people than it's not, then you are going to have people that are going to use it because they know that they're going to be a chosen few that's going to listen. There's going to be a chosen few that say, okay, you get a pass. But there's only so many passes we can give. There's only so long that you can play a victim.
Yeah.
And I think that it's going to take strong, mature people to, in spite of what you may be going through, in spite of this temporary ailment that you may be going through mentally, emotionally, like you have full control over your reactions and your responses in spite of what's going on. And, in a situation with those two, the means doesn't justify the end.
Yeah.
I know it's the other way around. The end doesn't justify the means. But in this case, for me, the mean doesn't justify the end. Even if mental health is the issue, it still did not justify the response. Still didn't.
Not at all. And that's a bag that I've been opening very carefully lately because I just want to hear people's thoughts on it. And there are a lot of people who feel like it was justified.
Yeah.
But I don't know if we want to open that conversation, but that's a whole separate separate topic.
We are the same page.
But talk about the resilient muscle, because you talked about being resilient. How does one, and that some are more resilient than others, but how does one build that muscle? How do they identify it, where they are, and how do they build that resilient muscle?
I'm not even concerned with the identification of it than I am just the mere concept. Because even though you may not be able to specify that, like it's no different than me know that there's a muscle in my shoulder. And I know that if I do a particular exercise, it's going to get bigger. Now, I don't know what that little muscle is. I don't know the name of it, but I know that if I do this particular exercise, I watch it get stronger and stronger and stronger. So I'm not concerned with the label as I am the act and the action and the response that gives you that tearing and building of any muscle. And with resilience, it's one of those muscles that's strengthened through when life hits you. We're not saying that it's not going to knock you down. The muscle that you build is when you lift that first leg up, and then you lift the second leg up, and you said, I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep trying. Even in the pain, I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep trying. When someone tells me no, okay, I'm going to just ask the next person. When life tells me no, okay, I'm just going to ask. When life gives me lemons, I'm going to get hit with them for so long. And then I'm going to say, you know what? I can take these lemons and make lemon juice and lemonade. And I can make ginger lemonade if you're from the Bahamas. And
yes.
So, my brother and I could have decided 2014 that I'm done. You take my parents away, what? My life isn't worth living. I don't want to be here anymore. Or I could have said, I don't want to do this. I just want to be under a rock. Isolate, leave me alone. I want to be depressed. And 7 years later, I could have been someone just, you're hearing Charisa Munroe, Miles Munroe's daughter, has gone crazy. I could have made that choice because we make a choice to do these things. But I chose to, through my pain and through my hurt and through my grief, I'm going to keep pushing. I don't know what in the world I'm doing. I'm not asking you to know what you're doing. But I'm asking you to say, yes, I'm going to do this. I'm going to try. I'm going to fail at something, but I'm going to try. I don't know how to do this, but I'm going to keep going. And then I'm going to pick up some information along the way. Mm-hmm. And so those back and forth, that tearing down, that building up, and that tearing down, that building up. Like children do it all the time. I love to use children because we were once children, all of us. And we were born with that resilient muscle. And the reason why up to a certain age it gets bigger and bigger, because as children, we get knocked down all the time. Even in learning to walk, we fall. You never see a child start walking and fell and never got back up. Actually, children, we all were wanting to run before we started walking. We all wanted to run before we started crawling. But we would fall and we would get right back up. We would be doing something. We're 9 years old, learning how to ride a bike. And we fall, we get our bruised knee, and your parents is like, no, come on, get up, you're good. You may cry a little bit, but you get up on the bike and you want to keep going, and then you're 15, and now it's time for you to start driving. I had fender benders in the first year of me getting a license, 3.
Wow.
3 fender benders the first year of me getting a license. But now, the reason why I had 3 is because after the first one, I didn't say, I'm not going to drive anymore. Then I drove and had a second one. I didn't say, I'm not going to drive anymore. And then the third one is like, okay, you just need, I need to now figure out what's going on. But I did not drive anymore. And so every time I said, I'm going to keep going. So as children, we were resilient. And then what happens is we get older as adults, and we start now our mental, intellectual plate starts getting filled with experiences and life and information. And so now all these things covers the memory of, remember when you used to get back up quickly? and didn't bother you. And so we all have that muscle. We just have to always tap into the little child in all of us that says, I'm not going to give up. I'm going to keep doing. I'm going to get up. I'm going to go. But we look at failure as such an embarrassment instead of looking at failure as, okay, I just need to make an adjustment.
Yeah.
And so if a child was running and tripped over a rock, they're going to get back up. They're going to run, and they know, I tripped over this rock. I need to either pick another path or move the rock. Kids do it all the time. And guess what? No one told them how. They just did it. They just tried it. And then they realize, okay, that rock was in the way. Let me move it or let me jump over it. And they do exactly that. Why can't we do the same? We make the adjustment. You keep acting and then you assess and then you just make the adjustment. And that is what resilience does. That is what resilience does. And so you find one of the strongest characteristics that any leader can have is to be resilient. Because as leaders, we are going to fail. Our goals are not always going to be met, but we are going to adjust. We're going to evaluate, and then we're going to say, okay, let's do it again.
So good. So good. Let's shift a little bit because you have a show that you've been working on. It's in its third season, Candid Conversations. And you recently had your husband on with you, and you guys had a good conversation on, listen, the theme was, how can I put it? I guess I'll just put it how you put it. You said you were talking about, the whole theme was love and relationships.
Okay.
And this one was sex and dating. You remember that episode? And you said, ladies, and you said, keep your options open. This is in dating, and your legs closed. I was like, do tell. And I want to go here only because there are so many women. You're now a married woman, but having had been in the single space, talk to ladies about their options, because there are so many who feel like either all the good brothers are taken or incarcerated, or some of them just feel like all men are dogs. So talk to us about the options, or talk to the ladies about their options when it comes to dating.
I mean, their options are there. Because again, options are going to be preferential, right? So options are there. Every man isn't married. It just depends on what you're looking for. My concern isn't so much about the options as it is, you don't have to try out every option. If it, well, let me change that. You don't have to try on every option. You could. It's no different than you walk into a store. You pick out a few items. You look at that shirt. You turn that shirt around, you look at it the other way, you look at the collar, you look at the sleeve, like you do all sorts of things. But you never once have to say, this is good. I can try this. You can do that. Now, every so often you have to try on something, but by the time you try it on, you kind of know that, okay, I'm gonna buy this. But you don't have to try on every option. The issue that we're having is a lot of women have all these options and they're doing it the wrong way. They are having options, trying it on, having options, trying it on, and then they want to get married. And one of the things we know about men is, and I'm learning this slowly but surely, I'm believing this, but you know, most men are, and I was trying to explain this to a young lady of mine, that most men want a woman who hasn't been out there, who doesn't have a track record behind her, who, you know, doesn't have a,
as the streets would say, they ain't got no miles on them. That's
it. She doesn't have any mileage. Exactly. That is it. And you know, some of it is the man's fault, because that's what men want to marry, right? Yet they're the ones that when they're dating, they're also trying their options. But yet when it comes to finding that one, everybody wants a virgin or someone close to it to take home. And so I like to encourage women. I'm not saying that you can't date. Like my dad wrote a whole book called Waiting and Dating. One of the best books for singles, one of the best books for married couples. And it was important for him, like in that book, he was just talking about, you can still date, but you can still wait. Like you can wait to have sex. You can wait to try on. You can date your options. You can Date one, you can date in a group, but you don't have to date and then also have sex. Like, that wasn't the way that God created. Wasn't his plan, wasn't his idea for marriage or relationships. And I remember my dad saying one of the reasons why God put do not fornicate as a whole command was for our benefit. It was for our freedom and our protection. And my dad said he was trying to protect our memories. Forget our bodies. He's trying to protect our memories. He's trying to protect our memories so we don't regret. Like, he doesn't want us regretting. And we all live in regret. And what regret does is regret then leads to guilt. And then guilt then leads to shame. And then shame then leads to now baggage. So when you finally meet that person and they have all this baggage, if you really were to go back, you'll realize that there's a lot of things they've done in their life that they wish they didn't. They wish they didn't feel, they haven't forgiven themselves because they're going through the shame and they're going through this guilt. Mind you, they'll die with that secret, but there's guilt and shame a part of their baggage, all because, man, I just slept with 10 guys, but I can't tell anybody that, And so that's a memory that a lot of women walk around with. And he's just trying to protect us from that. He wants us to live just open and free, like completely free to love, because I kept myself. So options are there. Options are vast. They are vast. You get to enjoy them. You get to pick. God isn't going to pick for you. He knows better. He don't want you blaming him for no wrong decision that you made. But he isn't going to pick for you. But he's giving you a plethora of options. And based on your desire, based on your preference, based on who you are, based on what you want, based on your vision, based on purpose, you choose based on that. And you can have a conversation. You can observe. You can watch. You can look. You can have a conversation. You can observe. You can watch. And you can look to be able to know this person is for me or this person is not. Never trying it on.
You talk about having, and you just alluded to it a little bit, you talk about having the purpose talk and the vision talk before the sex talk. And sometimes sex ain't even a talk, it's just a do. But in making that purpose talk and that vision talk priority, what does that sound like, and how does a woman, initiate that conversation when they're dating a man?
Interestingly, it shouldn't even be the woman that initiates that conversation. Oh, yes. I would actually strive to say that it should be the man that initiates that conversation. Interestingly, I had a husband who, while we were dating, very early on, he sent me an email and he was like, check your email when you get a chance. No problem. I checked my email and this guy had sent me a full layout of not only the vision for his life, but the vision that he had for his family. Like the amount of brownie points that he got by that email. And I've dated a few guys before him, and not a one ever did that. It is important for a woman to know where her husband is taking her to. And that is in the form of vision. That is in the form of purpose. Like, what are you doing? Where do you see us in 5 years? Where do you see us in 25 years? How do I help you? Where do you see our children? Like, you want a man who initiates that conversation. It really doesn't and then I may have a vision of my own, and my husband was very much aware of what I wanted to do. And that just came by him meeting me working. Like, he met me in my vision already. He met me talking about my dreams and talking about my aspirations. And that just looks like, man, this is how I can help you. This is what I would like for you to do. This is how we can help each other. We don't have to be the same. We can be complementary. And in order to be complementary, you have to be different. So imagine if we were the same, like, this is what it would be. versus us being very different, then you have that intertwining. And the only way that you know what that intertwining looks like is if you talk about vision. And he literally has scriptures. He told me exactly what he wanted the vision of our family to look like. So now, here's what happened. So now that he's showed me that, however long ago it was, now in our marriage and in our home, when things don't look like the picture that he showed me in his vision, I get to say to him, this ain't looking like what you said you wanted, you know? And
Yeah.
even though he may get a certain way, he understands that, man, I showed her what my vision is. I showed her what I wanted for this family. I showed her what I wanted for our house. I showed her what I wanted our finances to look like. I showed her what, and then she knows what my purpose is. She knows that I enjoy and I have a heart for young men, boys becoming great men. Like, we know that by having the purpose talk and the vision talk and him being interested in what are your interests, what are your passions, and allowing me to talk to actually say that, versus it being a conversation of, this is what we're going to do, I'm the leader and your purpose don't matter.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah.
And that's, believe it or not, that's some relationships. You know, there are many women that are silenced because a lot of men don't understand their leadership role. There are many women that are hidden because a lot of men don't understand that you should be covering her for protection, not covering her to squish and smother.
Yeah.
And I was blessed to find a husband who is a true leader in himself, but also covering and protecting and supporting the visions that I have for myself, or that can complement what it is that he is doing.
So good. What, looking back on single Charisa and now married, was it a challenge at all trying to shift from this single woman into now a married woman?
It was. And then I was single, a long time. So you're not speaking to a 20-year-old single who got married at 21. You're not speaking to a 25-year-old single woman who got married at 26. No, you're speaking to a much, much, much older single who was getting married at that age. So there was so when you think about, Dad describes marriage as the collision of two histories. Okay? So it's one thing when you have 7 year, it's one thing when you have 15-year history, 20-year history, 25-year history, 26-year history coming together. But when you got 30-something year history and 40-something year history coming together, OMG, let me tell you something. The collision is dynamite. Dynamite, let me tell you. So the adjustment is still going on. I think it's also going to be an ongoing, forever adjustment. I don't think you ever arrive, not in marriage. I won't lie and tell anybody you ever arrive. But, we get to grow. We get to grow as we adjust. And, it was different just being able to get up and travel and not have anyone to ask permission. And, it was different. It was different. It was just different to not have anyone to concern yourself about but me. And same thing for him. He could come home and he wanted to and leave and he wanted to, and he can't do that now. You can't just come in this house when you can't just come in this house when you want to and leave when you want to. Where you going?
You said you put this live on pause. Hold on, where you about to go? Hold on, I'll be right there.
Exactly.
That is too funny. Wow. I'm curious, having heard all the teachings of Dad Munroe and all the teachings of Lady Ruth Munroe, what sticks out with you right now in this season? What teachings of theirs are you gravitating to right now in this season of your life?
All of it. And that's why I appreciate my parents so much, because when you look at, like, there are five fundamentals of the human spirit, mind, and body that my dad focused on. And he focused on them like that because the human is made up of that. Like, we're made up of spirit. kingdom. We're made up of body. We're made up of soul. So we're just made up of all of his teachings: kingdom, leadership, purpose, potential, relationships. Like all of it matters in every season of my life. In every season of my life. Sometimes I need to hear purpose. I put in more. I need to hear leadership. Sometimes I need some empowerment and then the kingdom is going to always be there. The kingdom principles are working, at least in my life, on a day-to-day basis. Relationship, now that I'm married, so my husband and I are now listening to his marriage teachings because we want to get that, like all of these matter. Like it all matters. Like there's never a day that purpose doesn't matter.
Yeah.
There's never a day that potential doesn't matter. There's never a day that all of a sudden, okay, today the kingdom don't matter. Like, no. Every day, relationships with business partners, relationship with my brother, relationship with now my husband, like all of that matters. And my dad's teachings, my parents' teachings focused on all of those. Notice I never once said healing. I never once said prosperity. Because all those things are byproducts of the fundamentals. When you get the fundamental concept of the kingdom down pat, things like prosperity, automatic. Healings, automatic.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean.
I got you. I got you. Are you open to a question?
I came with you, Cornell.
Are you open to a question? It look like a couple of people have some questions for you. Are you open to any?
Sure.
I'll vet them. It looks like I eat more plants. It looks like she said ask permission ? Can you elaborate, please? So I think when you mentioned about ask permission to your husband about going here, or he asking permission to you. I guess she's wondering why that's necessary. Maybe you, if you're still on, you tell us.
So permission in the sense that, like, when I was single, there was no one to say, hey, does our schedule work for this? There's no one to say, can we even afford this right now, depending on the financial goals that we have. I didn't have that when I was single. I literally could up and go. I needed no permission from nobody but myself. And then I got married, and because I am a wife who I'm also a woman who believes in submission, not from a permission standpoint, just my husband is my covering.
Yeah.
And so, it was, how many trips do I have? Okay. And now that I'm married, so I can't be gone every weekend. My husband may want me to be home one weekend. And I have to be okay with saying, you know what? I've worked the last 3. I'm going to stay home with him this weekend. Like, those are the considerations that I now have to give to the relationship that we're building, and to my husband, and to the marriage. Like, that just comes. And that's taken an adjustment. But we're both understanding how important it is to have that. Because he himself, there were times when he can go with his boys and he can be out till 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
First of all, ain't no permission needed. You don't even need to come ask. Know that the answer is at a certain hour. You are a married man now. You're supposed to be in his house. So, there's those type of, he didn't need to check in with anybody while he was out. Now he has to check in. It's only respectful to check in. It's only the loving thing to check in. But you learn these things as you grow. And all marriages are different. All relationships are different. So that may not work for you, but hey, that works for my husband and I.
Yeah. And I eat plants more. I just want to add to that. And I guess the word permission can sometimes stick out to people's minds as you having to consult somebody in order to be your own self. And in this world of freedom, and I do what I want to do, everybody got their own freedom of opinions and freedom. I think words like permission sometimes become annoying to people. So really don't look at it as permission. Look at it as accountability. You're accountable now to a husband or a wife. And now that person is, like she said, covering you, meaning if you're going out of town and traveling like she does, speaking and doing this, you want somebody at home, even, praying and covering you, your protection, making sure that you're arriving safely. So it's not necessarily permission. And sometimes it gets bigger into the point of finances, like she said, planning and vision. So don't think of permission as a derogatory term. It's more of just having an accountability partner, if you will.
And accountability is so important, especially in marriage. And my husband and I are learning that slowly. We're taking the slow, long route, but we're learning how accountable to each other, but also having outside people that you trust to hold you accountable, especially in a new marriage, and in our marriage per se. So we are each other's accountability in that what you used to do before may serve you well as a single person, but you doing the same thing would not serve the relationship as well as it did now that there is somebody else. And so that accountability being there to protect the relationship, to protect the union. Yes. Or else there's gonna always be distractions out there that wants to sever. Yeah. And so we get to be accountable to each other to protect that.
Yes. Looks like Kingdom Man Fitness. You say, I'd love to visit BMF, Bahamas Faith Ministries. How can I meet that goal, please? I think you just fly to the Bahamas and go. I don't think
literally, you can hop into any taxi when you land at the Bahamas airport in Nassau and tell them you want to go to Bahamas Faith Ministries, and they know exactly where to go. They know you don't need an appointment. You don't need no permission. You just literally get to fly to the Bahamas, enjoy some sun, some sand, some sea, and go and attend. And I promise you the door will be open.
Yes, yes. And make sure you get a grouper sandwich, please. Please. So, Charisa, we're going to get ready to wrap. Before we do, I want you to give us a closing statement. And how that's going to work is I'm going to begin the statement and I want you to finish it. To me, a history maker is someone who is...
Put me on the spot this year, huh? To me, a history maker is someone who lives their life not only for themselves, but for those of the next generation. It is someone who knows that no matter what they do, they will leave a legacy behind. And they are concerned with the legacy they do leave behind is one that's valuable and that will only make a difference in the lives of everyone they serve, current and following generations.
Wow. Well said. Well, Charisa, you are truly a woman making history. Thank you so much for joining me. It's always a pleasure. I appreciate you.
Thank you very much for having me.
No problem. So I'm going to let you go so you don't get into any trouble. You still on there talking to Cornell.
Well, and this is the joy of accountability. So he knew I was having a call at this time. So I get all the support. I get all the allowance. I get all, it's good when you find your mate. And I will say this before we leave, but when you find the right person, you don't have to, there isn't a strain. Yeah. There isn't a having to beg. There is, don't worry, baby, I got you. And there is just that allowing that opportunity and that area to just allow you to be. And so no trouble here.
Yeah, all right. I love it. Well, good seeing you, Charisa, always. I'll be talking to you real soon. Thank you so much.